And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
Right, attention and roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern Time. And, of course, I'm in the 49th state of Alaska. It's bright. It's early. Got a great guest for you today, Gonzalo Duran. I think his name is super cool, by the way. He's actually the vice chairman for the Bronx Conservative Party. But what's even better is he's running for the candidate for New York City Public Advocate running against Jumaane Williams. So good morning to you, Gonzalo. It's a pleasure to have you here. Let's just start nice and easy. If you could tell us where you grew up and if there's anything that's significant that got you into politics. Specifically, was there a defining moment that made you want to run for public advocate?
Yes, well, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. A big fan, so I'm glad to finally be on. And, I was born and raised in the Bronx. My mom came here as an illegal from El Salvador. She raised me over here. And I spent my whole life literally in the Bronx, in Belmont area specifically, educated, work, businesses, everything. The only time I've left is when I joined the Marines, did 8 years, one tour in Iraq. Coming back home,
I didn't even know that, Gonzalo. I'm scared.
Well, a lot of people don't know a lot of the things that I've done, but I keep it all focused on and compartmentalize on things that I'm doing. So politics is one thing, military is another, et cetera, stuff for me like that. But I can't. Before I left home, politics was never in my mindset. The only reason I even registered was because I remember I was driving a vehicle on base without a license. The colonel finds out, tells me, "Get your butt," He said it in a not nastier way, but he was like, get your license right now. And for like a couple of years, for almost a decade, I had my driver's license with my uniform on, my camis, which is not a normal thing. And but when I came back home, I struggled. I had some difficulties, and I got to see. Once I got out of that situation, I got to see why I was in those situations, why the cracks in the system were there, and I wanted to change it. And, before then, my mindset was Democrats were for the poor and Republicans were for the rich. And as I got closer and more in depth in politics, running a nonprofit, doing advocacy work, etc., I got to see how one party controlled a lot of the stuff in not only the Bronx but New York City. And I've always been the underdog type of guy. Marines were devil dogs, and over here, now I'm trying to be a watchdog type of thing, person. So when I got involved with politics, I saw how the Democratic Party was so nasty. You have two options: either you take orders and wait your turn, or you do some other crazy things like Diddy party things, and then you make your way, you break your bones per se, and then you get your opportunity from there. And I've always believed in hard work and determination to be your resume, and it's from then on, my goal has been just to try to do our best to try to get a balance between having options, having the ability to choose and pick your candidates, and not just be told who your candidate is going to be.
So Gonzalo, tell us a little bit about you said you had some struggles that got, like, what specifically was that? Like what was it like that you were struggling with?
Yeah, so when I got out of the military, I already had everything lined up, a job, school, etc. Some things I didn't know at the time, or I knew, but you didn't really see it as a factor. So when I got out in like October-ish, November-ish. So school doesn't start until, let's say, January. And so when I got out, I thought, I'm going to go to school. I got everything lined up. But at the same time, the paperwork for, let's say, nobody wants to hire you for a job for only like 3 months. So I'm thinking, I'm a Marine. You guys want to keep me, but as soon as school starts, I'm good. They're like, nope. Any job that I apply for, nope. That means now I don't have a pay stub. I don't have the basic necessities that a realtor wants to see. Now I have money in my pocket. I have like 10 grand in my pocket. I have a paper saying that once I start school, I'm going to have such and such money, thousands of dollars coming in every month, etc. So everything was in line. And but the realtors weren't familiar with it. I just finished my job in the Marines, couldn't get a job. So now I have no pay stubs to give in. And let's say unemployment won't kick in for a couple months on top of that. So now I'm jobless. I have no job, and the paperwork that is needed for the realtor is not what they normally see on a regular basis. So now I can't find a place, and you can't have stability without any of those things. And so, there was times where I was actually sleeping in my car for a week, and then moved into a halfway house, and then a rectory, and then I got to move in or couch surf with friends, and eventually I had to move back at home for a couple weeks, and then I got situated. And that's not the right way it should have been done. But once again, a lot of people don't understand that there's a lot of student veterans that are homeless that are veterans, and I didn't know how bad that was, because when I got situated, I was working to start up my organization, Devil Dog USA Incorporated, which is a nonprofit. I've been working for over 10 years now, and I was working with some assignments, and I put some billboards, had some veterans join in with me. And there was this one kid that always had to leave at 5:00, and we did that for a week. And then I asked him, "Hey, is everything okay with you?" And he's like, "Yeah, I have to leave at 5 because shelter closes the door at 6, and et cetera, stuff like that." And I was like, "You're here helping me start up a nonprofit for veterans, and you're homeless, and you're like the model type of Marine." He was a Marine as well. He's 6 feet, well in shape, running miles, and he's studying to do a law degree. And I'm like, you're the perfect example. You're what we want to see out there. And what the VA couldn't do for 6 months, I did over the weekend. And all I had to do was door knock, vouch for him, and show that he had the capability. So right there, my mindset changed completely right there.
It's so interesting. It's so interesting to me. We got a lot in common here, brother. Sepify, I'm a fellow Marine, served in Iraq. Hoorah, brother. Just like you. I love hearing that. And I lived in the Bronx a decade, and I worked in the Bronx a decade. So we have a lot in common. What I think is quite interesting, here you are, the vice chairman of the Bronx Conservative Party in a predominantly Democratic city, especially a Democratic borough as the Bronx. And just, you were in the Marines, just like myself, and something we always did in the Marine Corps is mobilizing Marines and mobilizing people, right? So how do you mobilize Republicans in a Democratic borough to get out there and vote for you? Because we spoke offline. We were talking about the percentage of votes, and we talked about how you only need 5% because of it's an 8-1 Democratic vote. So how do you mobilize Republicans in a borough that is predominantly Democratic to get behind you in this Democratic city? It's extremely tough. How do you do that?
Well, Eric, thank you for asking that. I appreciate that, because that's something that I've been trying to get out there for a while. I've always seen myself as a moderate. So, the Democrats didn't like me because I was too far to the right, and the Republicans, conservatives don't love me too much because I'm a little bit to the left or on the moderate side. I think the best thing I can say is that instead of telling people or projecting, my goal has always been to try to, not say accommodate, but try to find a balance on everything, because everybody has their different opinions and everything like that. So for me, what I do is I go out to the people and I say, look, we all want the same things. We want housing. We want safer streets. We want, the American dream. How we get it is going to be a little bit different. Like, let's say when I talk to people at the simplistic way, I can say, look, a Democrat wants to give you more social services. That's their goal right now. Whereas a Republican, we want to limit that and take away. You're going to have services, but we don't want to keep you in it forever. So the goal is to try to get you out of it, and at the same time have everything in stability for you so you can walk into it. And that's the most simple way I can say that I've been trying to get the voice out. And by doing that and giving a voice not only to, let's say, somebody like me, I'm not yelling to the top of my lungs or saying just only Trump stuff, or I love the American flag. I love it. I love America. I love everything that it's about. But there's way to address and speak people to try to bring that balance in it, and that's what's helped me. In the Conservative Party, we're the smallest party there is, just like the Marine Corps is the smallest organization, the military branch, and a lot of things that I've taken from the military, I've indoctrinated into what I've been doing. So when I joined the Conservative Party in the Bronx, we were like 85% unmanned, and we had maybe just over 3,000 members, and barely any visibility in the media, no events going on, etc. Now, there was a lot of structure before that. The chairman had passed away a couple of years ago. The new chairman, Pat Manis, was coming in, and he was keeping stability as best he could, but he needed a lot of more support on it. So I came in. The Democrats, when I was running for city council in 2023, I knew if I ran a full campaign, and now this is me 10 years later, I have let's say hundreds of articles written on me, been on television for years now, multiple situations so people can see the work and know who I am. I'm coming into that, and I'm sitting in a meeting with them, and I'm like, look, I want to run for office. I knew, talking to the Democrats, they were just going to kick me off. I knew it. I just knew they were going to do everything they could, and that's the way it is, and I'm okay with that, because I wasn't part of their system. But also, they don't want somebody with a background who's a NASDAQ opener, father of the year for New York City, somebody who has a military background with or a nonprofit leader with all that experience, to go against one of their people. And so I had a backup plan. I reached out to the other parties and I said, I would love for to speak to you guys. The Republicans didn't get back to me. No hard on that. Just they didn't. And the other parties were not willing to compromise in certain things, which I understand. There's no problem with that. But the Conservative Party, which is a third party, which is one of four organizations that have ballot access, they took a chance on me. I told them, look, I'll increase your numbers. I'll do more events. I'll get you guys some media, and I'll put you in a position where you can get candidates and donations eventually. And they were like, yeah, sure, whatever, kid. We'll see that happen. So they gave me the line. I did the work that I needed to do, and then within 3 months, for the primary, the Democrats already did everything. Got me kicked off the ballot, and then I got enough of the signatures and stuff that I needed to get on the conservative line. Within that same 3 months, I increased the party by like 50 or 60% by being manned up, and then became the district leader for the 79th Assembly, because I transferred to conservative at the same time. And 3 months from there, I raised the county line by, I want to say, like in the 80s, close to the 80s. So we were filled by 80% of the man body that you need to be an organization. And then became the vice chairman, started doing events, getting media attention. And in that 1 year, we increased the party by over 15%, got newspaper articles, television promos. And instead of just having, I think we only had like 4 candidates that year, maybe something like that. The following year, we increased it again by over 25%. Instead of having 21 candidates, instead of having a handful of candidates, we had, out of the 21 legislative positions, we had 18, which was unheard of at that time. And I've continued that. I've been continuing trying to get our numbers filled, get people increased in our in our voting percentage, because all those matters. If you don't have people running or candidates, and you don't have donations, you don't have media, you don't know if we even exist out here in the Bronx for Republicans or conservatives. So now I'm, in a two years, now I'm running for the second highest position for New York City in the elections. And, we're coming in out of the 13 legislative positions we have. Out of 13, we have 12, and we've increased our party by almost over 30% in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I hate the party system. I can't stand it. I just, everything that you're outlining right now makes my skin crawl, because it's like, if you want to run for office, Gonzalo Duran, a New Yorker, a Marine, an immigrant to this country, right? That should be who you are. But in order for you to even get to where the people have the ability to vote for you, not even know who you are, you have to put yourself in a box, basically. I'm a Democrat, I'm a conservative, I'm a Republican. And I honestly, and the inner politics within is what keeps good people from getting elected. It keeps good people like just think about that right now. Like, what you just said is you lean a little left, you're moderate, you're probably on the Democrat, maybe conservative, right? You're in the middle, you're a moderate, so you could swing either way, right? You could be a Republican, you could be a Democrat, but here you are, you do all this community service, you do all this community work, you understand the party, and the Democrat Party is going to shut you out because you don't align with their message. And it's like, to me, it's a sad state of affairs in American politics. It should be, if we were going to run, people should vote for John or Gonzalo. There shouldn't be, I'm going to check the Republican line because I always vote for Republicans, or I'm going to check the Democrat line because I always vote for Democrats. And that's what's happening. Like, that's basically what it is at this point. It's sad, dude. It's honestly, it's a sad state of affairs, because I personally believe if you pulled out off the Democratic line, if you pulled that away, like you said, all right, there's no more Democrat, there's no more Republican, there's no more anything, and you just had candidates up there, you had Gonzalo, you had Jumaane Williams, you had those two people running against each other, more than likely, I personally believe New Yorkers vote for the moderate almost every single time.
And I will agree with you, and I will go a step further and say, look, I just told you what I had to do to be at my position right now, and it wasn't easy, and a lot of people get disenchanted with it because I think internal politics is harder than actual outside politics, because it's many reasons for that, but.
Sounds like you talk about the police department.
I've been listening to those things that you guys have been talking about, so yes, I agree with that. But it's so bad right now, especially with the Democrats in power right now. I give them credit because they've done work and they put themselves in a position where they are. But now I look at them like a gang. It's if you're not a part of them, they don't want your part. They control the media, they control the politics system. There's no way that they don't have their hands wrapped around it. But I personally, I put the blame on individuals. I don't say more of the party or stuff like that. We've let this, moderates, conservatives, Republicans, we've let that happen. And for whatever reason it is, whether it makes money becoming in second place, or whether people are just don't care anymore, or whatever the reason is, we have to start fighting back, and if we don't, it's only going to get worse. And that's why I'm trying to do my best to try to push that out there. Now, if I do my job right, eventually I'll be removed from my position, because if I bring in more hard right conservatives, but I want to make it very clear, I'm working to that because I believe in so much of a system of a balance. Now, if we remove the party systems, I would be more happy about that. But in my mind, I don't have a better answer on the structure it should be in. So I'm not fighting that specifically. But I'm saying, look, if you work the system and you do it the right way, an average person, a good-hearted average person, can make it to a certain level as well.
I think this is an amazing topic, and especially you outlined some valuable information for friends and listeners, for everyone to hear. It's so true, because it just as John said, you're put in a position where you have to box yourself in, that, and you have to identify and say to yourself, well, are my views more than 50% to be on, this side of the fence, or more than 50% to be on this side of the fence? And the reality is, does the responsibility come down to the people running, or is it the people that have to take this back? Because let's not run for a party. And I think that's what you're saying, John. Let's actually vote for the person. So it comes down to people have to start educating themselves on who they're voting for. And I think it's kind of, excuse me, it's just pure laziness. People don't know who they're voting for. Sal says it often here. It's pretty funny. Low information people, right? They have a little amount of information on the people that are going to serve their communities. And I think that's really hurting us. It's really sad. And again, you said it. How many people actually voted for New York City mayor last time? Less than 1 million people in a city of 8.5 million people. That's just pure laziness. But, with that being said, you're running for a very high-profile position. Jumaane Williams is well known, gets a lot of opposition from the police, is a big supporter of defund the police. So let's segue into public safety. Let's talk about here you are in the Bronx. And what we see from Jumaane Williams is this push to strip away from the police department, particularly when we talk about the How Many Stops Act. So with the How Many Stops Act, that makes it more incumbent upon police officers and hinders them from doing their job. So if you were the public advocate, how would you balance public safety, police reform, and civil liberties?
So this is one of those topics where I get more favoritism from the right side and the Republican conservative side. I am pro-police. I believe giving the tools for the police department is more important. I would like to. I even go as far as saying, like, there's certain levels where I have zero tolerance. You do a crime, you got to get punished for it. It's hard, and I talked to Mayor Adams a couple months about this. I did an interview with them, and the statistics are out there. People know who are the repeat offenders, what's going on, how to change the system. But there's so many things that are against us. We have the revolving door with the court system. So it's not just if you arrest somebody, but also how do you prosecute them and how do you get them in trouble. Now, most on the far left and let's say Jumaane Williams, those individuals say, well, no, we want to reform them, we want to help them, we want to get them. So me personally, I would rather have safe streets and then focus on reforming them and giving them the stuff that they need to get back into the employment field, et cetera, stuff like that. For me, the safety is more important. Although freedom is number one in my book as always. But I wake up every day, and this is one of the reasons why I'm running. I wake up every day and I don't know whether I'm going to get shot coming back home from the store, or if I'm going to get jumped and stabbed on the train, or if I take the bus, if somebody just going to go wail on me just because I bumped into them. I don't know. All these things going on, and at the same time, now I'm not only thinking about my own safety, but everybody else. Where a lot of people say, I want change, but they don't want to do anything, or they don't say much, or put in the category where they want to be. I just told you I'm going to be hard on crime because I want safer streets and I want a better community. But I also am proactive with it as well. When the increase in crime with women being attacked on the streets, I sat down with my community and I said, well, what can we do? And they were like, well, we need to learn how to defend ourselves. So I started one of the programs with a local karate master and who's trying to build a dojo. So he's trying to build a dojo. I'm trying to get safer streets. So we started doing courses on how to protect yourself. We started with women, and then we increased it for children, adults, and seniors. And we did about 12 events, 12 classes last year, and we're hoping to do another 10 this year. Also with stuff like the guardian angels, this is like a full circle type of thing. I saw, I've known Curtis, I've known of Curtis for decades, but about 3 years ago, I was doing volunteer work and helping out the community in Brooklyn, and I met a guardian angel over there, and I was like, oh, I love the work that you guys doing. How can I help? Now, I'm an honorary member of the Guardian Angels for the Brooklyn chapter, but my role is more in providing resources for them, like giving them stuff so that they can give it to the people on the subways and people that they meet up with. On top of that, for me, I want to say something really important for me. And this is something that, most people wouldn't say in my position, but, if we want crime to go down, we have to stop committing crimes. We have to get in more of that mindset instead of just saying, oh, I need this services, I need that service. Right now, if you go to the hub in 149th and they, instead of solving the problem, like, eliminating the drugs, arresting people who are doing crimes, they just close off the area, and then it just spreads out to different parts of the community. And then I'm sitting there with, let's say, more liberal people, Democrats, and they're like, well, that's not right what they're doing. So what's your answer? Because they've given these individuals the opportunities to get, legal drugs. They've given them the ability to not be, the bail reform systems. What more can we do for them until we start hurting ourselves even more,
Well, I mean, you just outlined, I think, the biggest problem with not only the right, but with the Adams administration. It's like people don't understand public safety, So people say what Adams did. Oh, he did a good job. He shut that off. He kept crime down. Meanwhile, nobody's getting arrested. Drug dealers aren't getting arrested. The pimps aren't getting arrested. The main players are not going to jail over anything because there's no investigation. When there are people who are victimized, the police department's not taking reports for them so that we could continue this narrative that crime is down. And public safety has become like a show. We just clean up this room that's dirty for a few minutes, but the cameras come in, it looks good. Soon as the cameras leave, everything fills up. The roaches come back in, everything fills back up. It's been all a show. So I want to ask you, you live in the Bronx. I think that public safety is the number one issue in New York City, followed by unaffordability of New York City.
Yes.
Do you agree with that statement? Because Eric Adams is saying that everything's fine and everything's safe, and we're at historic lows in crime numbers. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I lived in New York City for 4 decades, and I think that we're approaching a different time that I remember as a child when New York City looked a lot different. You live in the Bronx, and honestly, it really never changed over to the rate that other boroughs did, like Manhattan, like Brooklyn. There was still a lot. You still dealt with a lot of street level crime, even as the rest of the city crime numbers were dramatically going down. How do you feel? Is public safety an issue?
Yes. Look, I felt safer in Iraq than I feel safer in the Bronx. I can tell you right now. And I'm surprised that I even have to work so hard to try to run for office. When if you go and at the community level, I'll go at the community level. I've seen captains and sergeants have to talk to the community members, and they'll give a scenario. They're like, look, we just arrested 2 teens that broke into a house, and then they were released within a couple hours later. And I'm sitting there like you understand, like, to the people, like, you understand you're voting for these things to happen. This is a police captain telling you they have no power to do anything. I'm here trying to tell you and beg for your support, your donations, for your help. It's the mindset is so crazy right now, but that's where we are right now. It's gonna get worse the way the things are going, and I'm doing my best to try to change that as much as I can.
That's pretty funny because I always tell people, just joking around, I always say I served 2 tours. My first tour of duty was Iraq, and my second was the South Bronx. So, but I get it. Listen, I lived in the Bronx a decade. Excuse me, I don't something in my throat today, but I worked in the I worked in the Bronx a decade, and don't get me wrong, it's a great place. Like, it's great food, it's great people. There's something really cool about the Bronx. It's just like this gritty vibe to it. But with that being said, it's always been a place where public safety, it has to be number one. It's just a place, unfortunately, that is riddled with crime. Let's be honest. And working in the South Bronx, I learned a lot about it. There's a lot of good people there, but unfortunately, it does get overshadowed by crime. But what I see right now is astronomical. And the pictures I see of the hub, 149th Street and 3rd Avenue, and what I see right now, it looks even far worse than I was there. And I thought sometimes, like, could it get any worse? And with this administration, this whole perception management, it does look worse to me. Unfortunately, And it's the Bronx is one of those places you always have to have your finger on the pulse. And if you're not doing proper intrusive police work and you're not engaged in the community properly, it can easily slip from your hands. So with that being said, public safety is number one. What would you say is different about your stance, your position with public safety and the connection with the community in comparison to your incumbent, Jumaane Williams?
Well, I just want to backtrack a little bit because, I love the Bronx, and the Bronx does have some great stuff. We have, I think we're now the third largest zoo in the world with the Bronx Zoo. I think maybe China or Japan beat us, maybe number 4. But we also have like the Botanical Gardens, which is one of the ecological places in the Western Hemisphere or something like that. We have multi-million-dollar houses. We have suburbs in the Bronx. People don't know that. And we, it's a beautiful place to be, but I've seen it getting worse. And the biggest thing happens to be with the crime. When I saw the last thing I saw regarding Jumaane Williams and him trying to take away the stats and the data away from the NYPD to fight the gangs and stuff like that. But the way he spoke to the NYPD, I was amazed. Like, who are you to speak to these individuals that are, risking their lives every single day, and you sit in a position where not only that, and this is where I love when we have competition amongst ourselves. And you had Adams literally that week saying, you wake up at 12 in your army base and you have your police escort. That's when you see the real catty stuff comes out. And that's the things. That's where it only happens when you have competition. And for that to happen, somebody who's so removed, and I don't blame Jumaane particularly on his stance, because his opinions and his views, and he's in public service for I think almost over a decade now. So the people have voted for him, and there's a certain amount of people that want him in office. But do they want him now only because they need him in that position so they can get what they want from him, or because they believe in his policies? Because if you go to the community level and you hear, let's say in the Bronx, in my community districts, which is majority African Americans and Latino Black community, they're upset with all the things that are happening right now. So if you're upset with the things that are happening, why do you keep on voting for these guys? And I'll even backtrack a little bit more. Let's say in the 17th city council district, there's 180,000 residents, give or take. There's 80,000 registered to vote, 60,000 are registered Democrats, and they win by 5%, which is anywhere between 3,000 to 4,500 votes. Compared to there's really no competition there. They win with like a 70 to 80 or 90% margin in the votes. Now you multiply that by 51 city council districts, and it's pretty much that. And then on top of that, when that percentage right there is only 5%, give or take, from the Democratic road. So there's 95% of Democrats that don't like what's going on, but they just don't vote. They don't have an option. They don't know the people. Whatever the reason is, maybe they're not educated in it. They don't care. They're getting what they want. It's so many factors that are in it. What I would want to do, once again, a lot of it is a common sense thing, and I say I push this out more. Common sense goes both ways, not only for the Democrats, but it goes for the Republicans too. If we don't start supporting and pushing our candidates, please play this. This is beautiful.
Yeah, so this is Jumaane Williams when they're having a meeting on public safety. This is in February 24th of 2025, Committee on Public Safety in New York City Council. This is now who Gonzalo's running against. This is Jumaane Williams, and he's advocating to remove the gang database. We'll get your thoughts on that in a second. Let's just play this video real quick.
In gangs and street crews.
It fluctuates.
Okay, but you just said that because of your history, you believe 75% of it wasn't. And over that time period, the gang database has existed, so it hasn't really done what we wanted to do.
No, I could not. I'm sorry. I cannot agree. I'm sorry. I cannot disagree with you more
Okay.
about the use of the criminal.
Wait, stop. I don't have that much time. I was going by what you said. I just repeated what you said and the percentage of the shootings and where they come from. That's all. But my other question,
Can I just say what some, you know,
But
we're
there's no-
talking a
you
lot
can answer
today
this in my
about
next question.
victims.
My-
Let's remember the victims.
sure, yes, I am remembering the victims
Okay.
more than you.
No, that's not.
I have been to more funerals than
Okay.
you, I guarantee. And they look like me and their mothers look like mine.
Okay.
Do not believe that you care about this violence more than I do, or the people who are here, or the people who are there. Don't do that. Do not do that.
First of all, don't.
No, stop. Do not do that.
Don't talk to me
No,
like that.
call this to
Do not
order.
do that.
Don't talk to me like that.
No, you will not do that.
So stand up.
You don't know about this violence the way these people do. You just don't.
First of all,
You just don't. Don't do that.
do not talk to me.
But I will.
No, you
Don't
won't.
talk to me like
And
that.
I'll talk to you like that.
No, this is the problem you have with the community.
No, I don't
I'm
have.
glad it's being shown right now.
We're gonna
exactly the community.
This is a hearing.
we're gonna just
We're-
maintain.
Aren't
I'm not going to be talking.
you spoke to me that way first.
No, I did not.
You absolutely
No, I did not.
Yes, you did.
Let's
My
just
next
level set.
question-
Let's level set and
Sure.
make sure that we.
I mean, so to me, again, this is the Eric Adams style of politics. This is race-based politics. This is you can't say anything to me because they look like me. And I don't know what that means. I honestly don't know what Jamani Williams is talking about. We live in the most diverse city in the world. That's the same thing as me during the era of the five families saying, you can't have an opinion on what's happening on public safety because those people you're locking up look like me. That's the same thing. Eric Adams, he didn't want Rikers removed from him. They look like me. Don't take this from me. Don't take Rikers Island from me. My mismanagement is horrible, but they look like me. And okay, and your point is like that you're not incompetent, that you know what you're doing. So absolutely disgusting. What are your thoughts on his actions? One, and what are your thoughts about removal of the NYPD's gang database that he and New York City Council are advocating for? And the only fact that they're giving is that 96% of the people inside of the database are black and brown, even though the people that compromise gangs in New York City are 98% black and brown.
Well, first of all, you pretty much answered my question right there. You know, those situations, once again, at the community level, if you go to these community board meetings, the association, the precincts, and you see those, what they're saying are exactly what he's trying to combat. So does he even know his own people on what's going on? Now he goes to the funerals, he goes to the meetings, but if you're degrading and talking to the people that you need the expertise, you're not listening to the people that are trying to make those changes, that are trying to enforce it. That's moving away from the compromise from both sides, not listening to, you know, the common sense. Common sense goes both ways. For the Republicans and the Democrats, for the police, for the citizens, etc. And that's where we're failing in getting our community to be safer. I personally would want the database to be in place because we need that information to make arrests, to know what's going on, to be aware, to keep the statistics and the data up, so we know who, you know. Unfortunately, once again, when I was talking to Mayor Adams a couple months ago, and I asked him, like, I was surprised when he told me he knew, or they know, that there's roughly just under 600 individuals that do repeat crimes, right? So they know who they are. They have the statistic, they have the data, and how much they implement it. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if you know who they are and what they're doing, then why isn't crime getting less? If you have all the information, then why isn't it getting less? Once again, there's any subject matter that somebody gives me, whether it's housing, safety, there's so many implications on things. We have to deal with the immigration, the influx of immigration, taking away the data from the police on what they can do, the safety of weapons coming in from different areas, the drug crime, all these things, the implementation of the drug dens and the supplements of it. How do we combat every single one of these things? For me, one is the leadership has to change. When Eric Adams came in, he and you can see from his stats, he's removed. I think he's on his third or fourth police commissioner, right? and then his deputy, or majority of his deputy staff is gone and removed or left, or either way. That's one implementation that you look at and you say, well, should he have been put in that position? Was he put in that position for a reason? And at the same time, if we're going to make changes, then how do we start from the bottom up? And for me, I would say cleaning the slate. I mean, it's going to be impossible to clean the slate, but more so trying to get new blood into these offices. Right now, you have, let's say, 51 city councils, right? And maybe 4 or 5 of them are Republicans. If we want these safeties or these precautions or some kind of balance in these remedies for these laws, we have to increase those numbers, or at least have some kind of competition when it comes to each other, so we can have these changes. And I don't see that happening this election cycle, especially with the things that are going on with Mondami, the way that we're moving to almost socialism. I'm scared of what's going to happen. And if we don't make these changes, and God bless you guys for putting these, being an independent media and trying to get these voices out there. But if we don't, I mean, I'm scared. I don't know what's going to happen.
I just think it's complete bigotry by Jumaane Williams and other political people in New York City, where they push this narrative that you have to look a certain way or talk a certain way to have certain perspectives and lenses. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous. And it's actually, to me, it's insulting to the minority communities. His conversation, his demeanor, to me, is just a complete insult to people. It's basically what he's saying. To me, it's almost like, you know what? If, I'm an enthusiast. I love the NBA. I love basketball. And so does John. But is it wrong? So if John and myself are analysts on ESPN, could we not make an assertion on what happened in a basketball game because it's predominantly black, but because we're 2 white guys? This is the most ridiculous thing, because he doesn't want to put emphasis on the expertise and actually the numbers and what's going on. Unfortunately, and this is what we talk about, unfortunately, in the minority community, especially the black community, 99% of shooting victims are black. And unfortunately, everyone bleeds red. And that's what we're trying to get down to, is public safety. So how do you have that conversation with minority communities that some of these Democratic political candidates are trying to push this narrative to insult you when you're a lot smarter than that? And this doesn't equate to public safety. This is insulting your intelligence, and you need to be educated of what's going on, particularly the gang database. The gang database is not violating civil liberties, but it's actually meant to monitor crime, especially these gangs, which are facilitating most of the crime, especially in the Bronx.
Well, I can tell you right now, I've had to deal with that situation my whole life. As a kid from the Bronx, going straight to California after basic training, I moved into a whole different area. Everybody, over here in the Bronx and South Bronx, black, white, Latino. There's a mixture, more so of black and Hispanic. Going to California, you're seeing a huge amount of white people for the first time, and having to deal with that environment. I was broken into in a different way. Coming back home, now being going to Fordham University, having to deal with that. Now being an individual of hierarchy within the Conservative Party, once again, I've had to deal with that. I've never let my skin color or my background be the justification or be the person that the people see. It's based off of my hard work, the things that I want to get done, and being determined on that. I wish everybody could be like that, but that's not the way it is. I remember recently where we were at our office and we're having in the north part of the Bronx, we have our conservative office right there. We have a banner, Conservative Party in. We had the door open and we're just having a small little meeting. This woman comes in, she's African American, and she kind of barges in. She's like, "What are you guys doing here?" And I'm like, "Oh, we're just having a meeting." Like, no, she wasn't asking like, "What are we doing?" Like, "What are we doing here? Why are conservatives, Republicans in the Bronx?" And I was like, well, we're a political party. I gave her the whole spiel and everything. But she came in with such animosity towards us. And this is the way that I approach things when it comes to this situation. Luckily, or not luckily, but there was more people coming in. There was the chairman who's white and our secretary that's white as well, and one of our members who was white. So it's me and three white people, and the woman that comes in. Now, shortly after, people start coming in. You have a few Latinos, some young Black guys come in, and she's more interested on why these individuals are coming in to speak. And we're like, look, we're upset with the way things are going. These are, if you want to look at it that way, these are your own people mad at the way things are going. When she started talking about what the system and the problem is, we're like, what you're talking about is the reason why these things aren't being changed. You're coming in with negativity. You want to look at the other side. That's the way they're looking at it as well. And when I'm me personally, I'm just trying to find that balance once again. But at the same time, I fight going uphill too. I wrote a DEI press release a couple months ago regarding my party, and they're like, well, we had one of the best diversity events ever. And you look at the pictures, and like 99% of the white people, and maybe you have one Black guy and an Asian guy right there. By no means am I saying that everything should be in that fashion. Like, you need to sprinkle people in there just for show. The way I address my party, I'm like, look, you have a lot of individuals that are working, that are doing big stuff. Now, they don't have to be of any color or origin or whatever. Just pick the people that are doing hard work. If you look at the Bronx Conservative Party, we have a huge mixture, and people are always telling me, Gonzalo, how did you bring diversity into this? I'm like, I didn't bring diversity. I just actually wanted to make change, and they came over to us, and that's how we worked it. We gave the person who was best qualified, who wants to do the job, and that's it.
Yeah, diversity should be organic. It shouldn't be forced. And when it is, I believe it violates the foundations of this nation and violates the principles of equal opportunity law. I think once we start doing that, it's a shame. But we not to say that we shouldn't look at things and say, hey, what's going on over there? But like, to force diversity, to me, is illegal. It's completely illegal. It's discriminatory. It violates many laws that we have written. I personally, the whole push for DEI, to me, is just showing us going backwards. In my opinion, we're taking the civil rights era and we're just shredding it up. Like, you know what? Let's start judging people by the color of their skin again. Let's do that.
Yeah, recently I was on the Amsterdam News, and I was surprised that they asked me to come on. Because I was the only conservative that was in the question regarding the Voting Act of 1965. And I didn't know until the end how thorough they went. They had scholars and PhDs from all over the country, Chuck Schumer on there. And then I'm like, and you guys have me. I'm like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. But they were surprised on the answer that I gave them. They were like, well, do you think it's good, the ramifications of the 1965. I'm like, yeah, of course, we want everybody to be able to vote, compared to segregation and there were some things that I did that I forgot that they had done to individuals back then. But now they were surprised in what I said. I was like, look, the only thing that I have that should be different or we should keep in place is the voter ID. And they're like, wait, what? What? We need ID?
God forbid we know who's voting, right? God forbid.
And
You're a racist. All right. Well, listen, we can't have racists on our podcast. So you want people to have ID? What's wrong with you?
And I was trying to explain to them, like, once again, I just gave you the percentage of what the 17 city council district, 180 individuals, 80% are registered, 60 are Democrats, 5% are voting, and that's how they're winning. Well, that 5%, you don't know who's actually coming in. So the system in place that's there could be literally dead people voting, which is a common thing that happens. And it really see it happening to the Republican Party as well on the absentee ballot. So it goes both ways for the Democrats. Then you have, there was a federal indictment for the Republicans as well recently that they were, what's it called? Paying off for people that wanted to run, what's it called, to work the polls, you know. So all these things that are going on, but the crazy thing is, if I wanted to go into a civil service building, I have to show ID. If I want to come back to the country, I have to show my ID. But for voting, I don't have to show my ID. That doesn't. I'm like, once again, common sense goes up and down both ways. Come on, guys.
Gonzalo, Eric, before you go, Gonzalo, I had this up on the screen earlier. I just curious what you think about that. I'm not trying to smear Jamani. Jamani's welcome to come on the podcast. And myself and Eric have both spoken with him online and things like that. But what are your thoughts about this? Like a guy in high public office, and he loses a home that he owns to the bank. Like what is this something that should be happening to somebody who's the number 2 person in New York City? Like, is this something about his character, or is this just bad finances? But should voters be concerned about this? Because I am. I'm saying, if you can't manage your own finances, how are you managing mine? Like, how are you getting out there and leading me as an elected official? And honestly, to me, this just shows me that we have the worst of us in charge.
So, you know, with that specific issue, you know, there's always more to the story than what they publish. So to demean his character and stuff like that, I wouldn't go that far. But obviously, it's a sign that should be noticed, because I'm sure there's other things that are going on that we don't know about as well. When it comes to a situation like that, although it was only published, you know, more openly, that's not a situation that happened just recently. That's like 5 or almost 8 years, and those been sprinkled in the mail, like how that house became destitute, and then how the renters were complaining, and then how the bank. So every couple years that's popped up, and it's accumulated to that right there, and it looks very bad for him, and it should be questioned on so many levels. For me, when I look at that, I'm saying, well, if you're fighting and talking about home disparities to the top level, how can you not, you know, keep your own house in order? And it makes me question, you know, your leadership, you know, not only your leadership abilities, but also other things and factors. Because now if you go to his office, you'll see almost an empty office with, I think there's like maybe over 50 individuals that are registered to work in the public advocate's office. Then you ask, well, where's your record within the community? Sure, you're a big shot in Manhattan, but in the outer boroughs, you're almost not recognized. Your position is not even well known. You know, all the things that I've mentioned earlier are little things that I believe put me at a position that are more qualified than somebody like him. You know, being able to bring up a party from the lowest level, and I'm talking about a party that almost nobody knows, but bring it to the point where there's some recognition. In the Bronx, at least I can say that we're outshining in many ways the Republican Party. In other factors, you know, leadership, where you stand on making these changes that the people are asking for, but you're going on a tangent about, you know, the way you look and your color identity instead of how to fix the problem. That's, once again, those are things. When it comes back to this housing situation, the legal forms that I believe that got him in trouble with the situation are the same things that he's trying to fight with the people that are in power. So once again, where do you stand knowing all this knowledge, the people that are out there? Are they going to vote for me because I'm not the biggest Trump supporter? Are they going to not vote for me because I was part of the Democratic Party a couple years ago? That I don't, you know, that's what I'm trying to get at is, if we want these changes to be done, there has to be some unity. And I just want to backtrack a little bit to what Eric had mentioned before. You know, being in my position as a moderate, you would think that I would have a lot of difficulties on getting the other factions to support me. But in matter to be clear, I am the only citywide candidate that didn't get any challenges on my petitions. not for the conservatives, not for the Republicans, not for even my independent that I did this year. I received the endorsements from all the Republicans in the city, all the conservatives in the city. I even got the Young Republicans to back me, which is the first conservative that I believe that they have. I am the first. I believe I am the first conservative member to receive Quarles Party endorsement in the last 3 mayoral election cycles. So that's 12 years that we haven't seen a conservative receive the Republican line at this level. So although my barriers aren't like making Fox News, which it should be, because these are important things that I've been doing at the lower level to build up not only myself but the candidates around me, to so that we can be in a position and say, we need change. These are the things. These are the individuals that we should be fighting, or these are the causes. Nobody wants to put these things in place. Like if it passed the gang database, it wasn't because the information and the data isn't there. It's because there was no representation on the other side to fight it. So I hate to bring it a long, drawn answer like that for stuff like this, but there's in every question that somebody asks me, they expect a 1-minute answer, but there's so much things that are compiled into these things. So thank you for letting me go on that little rant.
Eric's frozen, I guess. Yeah, he looks like he's frozen. All right, he'll be back. All right, so look, I think the public advocate position is definitely a vital position in New York City, but I don't think it gets a lot of attention. The only time it's gotten attention is recently when there was talk of New York City Mayor Eric Adams being removed. I personally think he should have been removed. He was flying the plane blindfolded. He likes to say that he's the pilot of the plane, and for over a year and a half, him as well as his top executives in the NYPD had no federal clearance to know any type of terrorism. He endangered the lives of hundreds of millions of people. And everyone that lives in New York City and the people that travel through New York City for well over a year had no idea what was happening. So, I mean, to me, he absolutely should have been removed. There was no question. First indicted mayor, his administration is in shambles. I mean, it's basically, he's trying to rewrite history. Oh, I just had a few bad actors around me. Meanwhile, all the people he appointed. And the talk was, well, we can't because Jumaane Williams will be worse. Right? That's always Eric. This is Eric Adams' new campaign line is, Mondani will be worse. Jumaane Williams will be worse. And to me, I'm like, well, you voted for Jumaane Williams, though. You said, or you either voted for Jumaane Williams or you didn't get out there and vote for public advocate, and you have Jumaane Williams. So obviously New York City doesn't think that it's going to be worse. He's next in line to step up. How vital is the role of public advocate, in your opinion? We hear a lot of talk, including from former Republican Joe Borelli turned lobbyist who claims that the position should be removed after he lost the election. What's your thoughts on the position for public advocate?
Well, this is one of those things where I shouldn't say, but I don't think that position should be there, right? But that's because what they've been doing is making sure that nobody knows about it or working hard at it so that they can skate, right? That's why somebody like Jumaane Williams, I believe, and this position has been held by Democrats the whole time that it's been there. But if it's utilized the right way, then it could be a force of nature. And me personally, I think I fit the position so well because this is the position where I think it should be absolutely bipartisan. This is a position where you're speaking and gathering information from the people to help city. So I look at it as a bridge between the mayor and the city councils. This position is a vital position because if something happens to the mayor, the public advocate is next in line. This is a position where you oversee city agencies, and you can do look at the public's complaints about these agencies and try to do ratification, whether it's legal or whether it's pushing in legislating for new law. Although you can't vote, but you can either open a bill or co-sign with it. This is a position where there's vital city agency positions that you can put into place in different areas, from ecological to public safety to education, etc. I think it's been underutilized because it's a position where if they don't say too much or do too much, it's $180,000 job that they get or something like that, 4 years of service, and they get to use it to coast themselves for the next position that they want or they're vying for. And that's the trend that you've seen. I think I would fit perfectly for this position. That's why, I was actually running for mayor against Curtis Silva. And then, the opening came up for public advocate. And they were like, well, Gonzalo, we would love for you. Getting Curtis's endorsement to do it, and getting his support now to run for this position. And then the party is backing me up as well. I think we need a balance. Right now, if you look at it, if Mandami wins, now you have Jumaane Williams. That's two high, visibly outspoken socialists out there. And, once again, from the Democratic playbook, they're doing an incredible job. Now it's our job on the other side to make a difference. So I spent the last couple months winning over, or also the last 2 years, winning over the Republicans and conservatives' point of view. Now my goal is to try to take away Democrats that are away from socialism, that are anti-socialism, or that are more moderates or leaning to the right on a lot of these subject matters that we've talked about, in the hopes that we increase our numbers, not only in the long term, but to this situation that we're facing right now.
I think it's important to note what you just said, because I think it's so important and such a vital position that people start to focus on the public advocate, because it's an extremely important position, because God forbid something happens with the mayor, you're the first in line to succeed the mayor in that position. And I think that's such an important thing that, unfortunately, I think this position is overlooked. That has to put focus on it for those very reasons.
We're losing Eric again. Yeah, we lost him. So I don't know where he was going with that. So I can't follow up with it because we lost him. But question for you. So we look at last time we had a conservative Republican back candidate, Joe Borelli, 155,000 votes. 155,000 votes he received. What do you? I personally believe that this election cycle, you're going to get a lot more votes than you've gotten in the past years. We've seen that in the Democratic primary, right? We've seen a lot of people coming out to vote. There's a lot of when Jumaane Williams wins last time, I believe he has 744,000 votes. Where do you think you sit right now? And what do you need to get done to beat Jumaane Williams?
Well, first of all, I'm more of a candidate that looks towards the down ballot, because that's where we are. I just gave you the statistics earlier about the 17 city council, and that's generalized for everything. Once again, for me to get in a higher position, that's backing our high profile candidate, which is Curtis Silva. That's number one. Secondary, I'm also thinking about the candidates below me, all the 51 city council candidates. I don't think we have all. I think we have in the high mid to high 40s, I believe, Republicans and conservatives that are running. I'm proud to say that I helped get 26 individuals on the ballot this year. By my independent line, which is a United Party Alliance. We're not Republicans, we're not conservatives, we're just united. And having the backing of the Republican and the Conservative Party this year, I honestly think that we'll have a higher percentage number than we've had in the past for this office. It's a good stepping stone. But if we want to increase our numbers or to win, there's three things that are key functions for me. The first phase of my plan was to get as many candidates on the ballot. So like I said, for the Bronx, I was able to do the most there. We had out of 13, we had 12 on the ballot. I missed the 14th, which is, it's Karina Sanchez. It's not an easy area to fight, but it's don't hit on me too hard, guys. At least I'm trying. And then getting the Manhattan, we have one of our first candidates running in the LES, the Lower East Side, Jason Murillo, who will be getting matching funds. So that's the first conservative to get matching funds in over 2 years. The last person that got matching funds is my campaign manager, Isaiah Vega, who is also working in collaboration with me and Jason Murillo. So you can see that we have outlined plans. Now, I would have preferred for the whole Bronx to have gotten matching funds, but it's a lot of work. They don't see the big picture, but they're working hard in their own ways, which I appreciate.
By the way, I'm going to tell you, I apologize. I froze before. We've had some crazy weather over here. There's been some fires in Alaska, so I apologize for that.
That's no problem. After this question, I'd love to hear where you were going at for that other one. Now, for the candidates, my goal is, once again, to try to hit areas where Trump gave us data on where they were changing from blue to red. So we're in the middle somewhere, and to get those individuals operating in those districts. So now you have foot soldiers all over the cities to do that part. Once again, to try to push up the ballot, and then Curtis da Silva is to push down the ballot. So we have to work in unity for that. But, John, when you said earlier, one of the problems is, this guy can't hang out with this guy and they can't be seen with this guy. And those internal politics has to be pushed out. For me, once again, I've done all these things, and I'll go even as far as to tell you guys how big, once again, this is the work that I've done. Let's say for the Conservative Party, the Bronx is the only county that's putting up candidates for office. All the rest are Republicans. So it shows what a leader can do in a situation. I'm able to say and do a lot of the things that I'm talking about here openly, only because I have the protection of my county, of my district leaders that put me in power. So I can tell, these things that may look unfavorable for me, but I'm just a kid from the Bronx. I have no fame, I have no backing, I have no money, and I've made it to the second highest level of the election process for the city of New York. How awesome is that? That's, and if you look at the citywide, and this is what pisses me off. If DEI worked at the other way for the Republicans and conservatives, I'm the only conservative or Republican that's in the citywide race that's been in the military. I'm the only one that's, of a minority, and the list can go on different things that I've done. But do you see anybody throwing that at me or pushing me on a pedestal for that? No, because at the end of the day, it would hurt their line of questioning on the whole system. And I've been lucky that I've been able to push myself in this position only because I've been working to try to get more media, more events, more situations for not only myself, but for the candidates and the people that are working above me as well. So it puts me at a dynamics where, I'm sure there's a ton of people that hate me, but at the same time, they have to support me because of the situation that I'm in. And I don't mean hate like in a bad way. Hate as, I'm the first guy doing this, I'm the first guy doing that, and they wanted to get there first, or they're looking for the glory, or they're looking for that. In my aspect, I'm saying, how about we stop fighting amongst each other and work in unity and get this stuff done? Because if you want to fight, don't fight me. Let's fight them, because we're losing. We're losing at astronomical. It's not even competition that we're losing. So what do we have to be proud of if we're losing so badly right now?
Forget about hate. There's already a couple of people in the chat. Some of our friends and listeners have already said, I like this guy. And by the way, something got me laughing right now. Tell me I need AOL dial-up. I wasn't laughing at you. These comments are hilarious. But with that being said, you're public advocate tomorrow, and if you have to succeed the mayor, what is your alternative version of leadership? How do you engage the media, and how do you address the public about the crime that is happening in the 5 boroughs? Because this gaslighting by this administration, this whole perception management campaign, it doesn't help the people. It hurts the people. So what's your alternative version? What's your relationship with the media? And what's your relationship with the public when it comes to crime transparency?
Well, for example, and I'll stick to safety right now and with the NYPD, because I think that's the most prominent one. And you can see how, can we curse on this show? I don't know. Is that, look, I don't know with this shit show that's been going on. I'm amazed that these people are still, I can't believe these people are still in power and stuff like that. It boggles my mind. But, 4 commissioners, is that even a thing? Like, has that happened in the past? Like, I don't even know. But for me, if I came into office, yeah, you're on mute, John.
Sorry, I don't know. My thing is messing up today. But yeah, we've never had 3. So 3 was historic in one term. 4 is, forget, it's never going to be broken.
So first of all, I wouldn't hire one of my friends or nobody or somebody that I know who has no knowledge of the NYPD to be the commissioner. I can tell you that right now. That's something that I would not do. What I would do is, try to go to the hierarchies and say, look, who do you guys think should have a position? And give me the people to interview. Give me the people that we need to interview at a position for this position, and then go from there. I think that, somebody with the knowledge of the NYPD, somebody that's been advocating, in the Marines, we say a Marine's Marine, but, at the same time, we have to think about the civilian aspect of it, of the situation. But in the end of the day, I know there's more qualified people than the people that we've put in place in these situations. And it's simply not has to be you putting your friends or paying off or paying debts to get you in a position. But that's where we've come to in that situation. I'll even go a step further so that maybe hopefully the viewers can understand something like this. In the Bronx, let's say there's never a situation where we're running, and this is for New York as well, that we're running the last 2 election cycles for judges that are not Democrats. It's super hard to try to get somebody to come and run for judgeship. The basic, like for city council, there's at least some pushback, but for judges, there's absolutely nothing. So you guys want changes and reform for the crimes? We have to get more judges. Right now, the Bronx has 2 open seats for a Republican conservative judgeship, and I can't find anybody. And the only qualifications is you need 10 years of law experience, pass the bar, and be registered. That's it. And I can't find anybody because the Democrats have control of that so much that, let's say if there was 10 judgeships open, 9 out of 10 would come from one consulting agency that is run by former Democrats and elected officials that have completely taken over the whole system on that. And people don't know or hear about that because nobody wants to talk about it publicly, So if I go back into the NYPD and how did I change? If I became the mayor, which would be an awesome honor, and I'm not going to lie, it has crossed my mind that if something like if Cuomo or Adams were to win, and I were to win at the same time, I would just have to bide my time before their legal aspects comes into play, and I would be mayor. So that's been in the back of my head.
Isn't that the truth? That is the truth. I mean, right now, with the track record for Cuomo, the track record for Eric Adams, if those 2 are elected, you're going to be mayor. There's no doubt about it.
Now, I'm hoping that, with Jamani's record at the moment, so this is the other side of me trying to win. I just told you my game plan for my way of getting more votes. With Mondani and, I haven't seen him throw too much love to Jamani. So I don't know what the relationship with those 2 are, to be honest. But if it's any indication, I'm hoping that with the way the city is getting even worse with Adams and with the fear with Mondani coming in, that a lot of those votes that he's going to lose will come to me. What I don't want to happen is people just not to vote. So that's the thing that is kind of flaking for me. But I'm hoping. I'm gonna step back because that's wrong. That's not the way I wanted to say it. I assume there's a lot of skeletons in the closets, and for Jumaane, that you saw how catty Adams got in the last press conference with Jumaane. I'm hoping there's gonna be more stuff that pops out that will put me in more a situation, in the hopes that the work that I'm doing now will get more reception from the media and from the community. And that's really the only way that I even have a chance in hell of winning, or even be in a position where we can say, look, if I had 49% of the votes, at least that says to the people, there's an opportunity for change and something. So we need all this stuff to happen. It's not just one venue, it's multiple venues that need to be done.
So if you had to like summarize Jumaane Williams' term right now as public advocate, well, I think he's had 2 terms so far as public advocate. What do you believe Gonzalo Duran would do differently, and what should Jumaane Williams be doing that he's not doing? Like what do you see that should be coming out of that office that isn't, and how would you replacing him be different?
Yeah, so one of the things that I know for 100% sure is getting more activities in the autumn boroughs. I can tell you right now, majority of the people in the Bronx don't even know who the public advocate or what the position is or what's entitled. And I believe that's made for a reason so that there's not too much pushback in the future for that. And for public advocate, I think we only had 2 Democrats running for it. Should there have been more? Should have been situation. They know where to step in line and where not to. That's one of the reasons why there was no real competition there. And the numbers show that that as well. Another factor is trying to get more of the other sides. Let's say, I would say that the Democrats right now get more face time with them right now. He needs to get face time with the other side, the Republicans and the conservatives. I would be bipartial. I would be bipartisan on this situation. I would try to get all sides of the story, not just one side on pushback. I mean, the way he talked to the NYPD, once again, he's there to not only inform the NYPD, but also get their information on there. Imagine having to go into briefings with this guy after that. I couldn't imagine there's something like that going on. Third is that I would, just the way I implemented in, let's say, the nonprofit world and the Conservative Party in building small, and this is something that I did in the Marines. As an administrator, I helped build units. So from a 2-person unit to over 1,000 Marines and sailors that were across the country or across the world doing missions and different things. Building up the offices where we can get individuals, volunteers, workers, etc., to get the feedback from the community all over. And there's a lot of other things that I would have in play, but the biggest thing would be try to get more visibility, because I think that knowing that you have somebody speaking on your behalf, whether you like their propositions or not, is an important factor for the long-term goals of trying to get the city back into the shape that we want it to be.
Something that comes up often, unfortunately, is illegal military age males. Now, I think we're all advocates. I think the majority of American citizens are advocates to support the immigration process and support legal immigrants, because this country, the bedrock and foundation of this country, is based on immigrants. Now, I served in the Marines also. I served in Iraq with fellow Marines that were not even citizens yet. They were fighting to get their citizenship. And it hurts me that these guys were fighting so hard to get their citizenship, and now we're just given the life and liberties and freedom of the ability to live in America. We're just giving it away. But we're giving it away to illegal military age males. So what are your thoughts right now on this sanctuary city policies that are going on in New York City, particularly when it comes to Eric Adams gaslighting the public, trying to give this perception that he's blue MAGA and he's supporting the deportment? He's supporting illegal military-age males that are perpetrators being deported. But I mean, to me, it's just we're just being completely gaslit about because these private contracts. So what is your stance right now on the sanctuary city?
So I did a press release actually a couple weeks ago regarding this, and that's where I came up with the common sense goes both ways, up and down. I'm not Trump's biggest fan, but I've been a supporter of the work that he's doing. I believe what he did with the immigration reforms is an important thing that needs to be done. I wish he would have rolled out in different ways. Like for New York City, since we are a sanctuary city, it's a little different than it is from somewhere like Ohio or something like that. Especially for New York's history, that we've had, Ellis Island coming in, bringing immigrants in here, helping to build the city and for this country, and especially myself being first generation, my mother coming illegal. So I have a lot of viewpoints on situations like this. Until the sanctuary city laws are taken away, then we have to remember that they have citizens' rights while they're here. Now, where I would have liked for these laws implement or the work that Trump has been doing is he should have focused more wholeheartedly on getting illegal immigrants or undocumented individuals out of here that were committing crimes. That should be the number one task force right there. Getting high school kids and people that are working toward getting their citizenships and getting people at the courthouses while we're doing their interviews, that hurts me and the parties as a whole to try to get more work done or sympathy or stuff get done in the process. So once again, all these things have a lot of factors. When it comes to the work that I've done in the community, a lot of people don't know this, but just because you're undocumented doesn't mean you can't do a lot of things. You can do a lot of things, and I've held symposiums on stuff like this. As an undocumented individual, you can have a business. You may not be able to work a regular job, but you can have a business, and that's why, let's say, the food industry, the contractor work industry has been booming through the Ubers and the DoorDash and stuff like that. You can have a driver's license, you can have insurance, you can own a house, you can do a lot of things as an individual with who's undocumented. So in New York City, you have to keep that as a factor. Now, the problem that I see with a lot of the situation, and I see where it's going, the Democrats are putting so much emphasis on having more immigrants and undocumented individuals because it increases the numbers. So let's say for Congress, the more it doesn't matter whether you're a citizen or not, or you can vote or not. The more people that you have, the more seats and power that you have. Now, I would assume the goal for them right now, and I just told you, they control the media, they control the elections, they control pretty much everything right now. It wouldn't be that hard to say that their next goal is to try to get undocumented individuals to be able to vote next. And
we already did that, though. And Eric Adams just lost that. He tried to get non-citizens to vote in New York City elections, and he just got shot down after appealing. That just happened. I mean, that is the absolute overall goal. And like, not to cut you off, but my bigger problem is this, right? We talk about non-citizens' rights. We talk about people who entered the country legally's rights. We have people in here right now that New York City Mayor Eric Adams fired. New York City residents currently, zero due process. He didn't give $55 million for them to go fight their legal cases. He gave $55 million to illegals to fight their cases. We have Marlon Bethel, first generation immigrant to this country, became a New York City police officer, rose to the rank of intelligence detective fighting counterterrorism in New York City. And Eric Adams fired him for not taking a vaccine that he didn't need because he already had the antibodies for it. So technically, by all of history, medical history, all of common sense, he didn't need it. There was no need. Marlon Bethel was a danger to nobody. He worked 2 years during a pandemic. Eric Adams terminated him, not Bill de Blasio. Eric Adams said, "You're terminated." Till today, Marlon Bethel is not a member of the New York City Police Department. He's terminated non-disciplinary. and there is no fund. There's no relief in sight. So I have a two-part question for you. One, what's your stance on Marlon Bethel? Should he be reinstated? Should New York City mayor do the actual right thing and reinstate him with compensation and back pay and time, and the thousands of others like him that were denied religious beliefs medically and religiously? And also, should undocumented / illegal immigrants be allowed to vote in New York City elections? Because Eric Adams sure thinks so, and that's what he campaigned on in 2021.
Well, I'll answer the second one because that's the easiest and fastest I can give you. First, no, if you're not a citizen, then you shouldn't be voting. That's my opinion on that. When it comes to the first question, once again, there's a lot of factors into situations like that. We went through a situation where a pandemic, which hasn't happened in that scale in years.
Before you go, I'm just going to say, we're talking civil rights. Do your civil rights and your religious freedom rights get pushed aside during a pandemic?
Okay.
So I'm sick of the excuses being made for it because it's terrible. I'm not saying that you're making the excuses, but I just consistently hear it. So I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, and I appreciate you saying it like that, because once again, I want to make it very clear that situations like this is where we lose and we have to argue, we have to fight, but we all have to come in a situation to talk together amongst ourselves in a situation like this, because there's going to be a lot of people, and once again, those people that are against what you're saying are winning. They're in power. They're right now. We have a mayor that has not given, even though things have changed since the pandemic, are still not helping out the people that need those jobs or fight those civil liberties as well. Me specifically, when we went through something like that, I believe there should be a balance between freedom and safety. In a situation, for me, always freedom is always top notch. But during a pandemic situation and what we went through, we have to balance that up a little bit. And which way, in which direction, and how it happens it depends on who's in power and the way things are going. And I say that because that's where going to be the last part of my answer to that. During that time frame, I had to make a choice myself and say, well, do I want to take a shot? And I didn't want to. Now, I had family situation that came up, and I wanted to make sure that my mom was taken care of and I could be in a position to help her. So that's why I took it. Even though I didn't want to, that's why I took it. Do I think other people should have been forced to do it? No. But at the same time, because we're in that type of situation, I understand why we had to come to blows with that and why situations like that. When due process was taken away from individuals, such as, let's say, teachers or officers or city workers, with the Taylor law being taken away 100% like that, that was wrong. And we're still fighting, and those battles are still being fought. But at the same time, I understand why we were put in those positions, and I'm gonna assume, and I'm only taking one portion of it, is because the city didn't want to be sued by more people getting sick. That's the way I look at it in my perspective in that time frame.
I get it, but just common sense here, right? Common sense here. The city saying you need to take this vaccine because you have antibodies, because you need to get antibodies in your system to keep people safe, right? I'm donating my blood so that people could get monoclonal antibody treatment to heal them. I have antibodies in my system, and my question to New York City was, well, what's the difference between my antibodies and the antibodies from the vaccine? And what we were told is, if you don't take the shot in 7 days, you're going to be terminated, defying logic. Defying it. It literally, to me, everyone's like, till today, myself, Marlon Bethel, we continue to get painted by the Adams administration and his corrupt cronies at the top of the NYPD as conspiracy theorists and anti-vaxxers, when the only thing we ever relied on was common sense, which when I got infected at the height of the pandemic, after the Floyd incident, where New York City was in chaos. So I was working every night, 12 hours a tour. I get infected. I have to deal with Andrew Cuomo's ridiculous hospital protocols where I wasn't even able to get treatment. I sat with pneumonia for 7 days. And then upon going back to work, I'm told by the New York City Police Department, don't take this shot because you're going to have a high immune response. And if you take it, more than likely you will have an adverse side effect because you have antibodies for it. I check my antibodies. They're not even on the chart. They're through the roof. And so, like, you know, again, to me, there really is no defense for it. You know, when I see a cop that's in jail in New Jersey right now, collecting a salary, accruing time towards his pension because he got drunk, drove to Jersey, shot someone, paralyzed them, drove back to work, went to work, worked, sat there like nothing happened. And he's getting paid right now. And Marlon Bethel is terminated. And I'm forced out of my career early. I'm sitting there and saying, who do New York City elected officials care about? Because obviously I could tell they care about people who cross the border illegally much more than they care about their own citizens, myself or Marlon Bethel. And I get you're in a bad position and there's a pandemic, but what are we learning time after time, week after week? We're learning how many people in the New York City Police Department and across all our city agencies actually worked from home, received overtime they never worked for, received salaries for upwards of 4 years. 4 years never reported. So like the no-show jobs that came back, and it's infuriating, dude. And like, so like, that's my question. Do you support reinstatement and compensation?
Yes, I do, but there's limits to that as well. Because what frustrated me with your situation more, even that, is that if you go and look at the other side, those protests that were going on, you're getting fired, but they're letting these protests happen openly and you know, and everything. So once again, like, how do these things happen? Like this, I look at it as all the people that were in power at the time, and that's where the Democrats took so much. Their level of power shifted so much that now we have to fight in those situations. To answer your question, I've been wanting to get somewhere where we reinstate the police. The only problem that I have is the compensation part. You know, 1 year, 2 years, do we do the whole 4 or 5 years? Can the city afford that? You know, put in my position, if I was the public advocate, I would be like, look, I've sat in budgetary meetings and I'm like, well, where are you guys gonna get $4 billion? Like, and I'm sitting in that meeting and they're saying, well, we're just gonna take away percentages, like 5 or whatever percentage from every other agency to put over into the immigration part, because the city can't generate its own money like the federal government can, and people don't want taxes to be increased. So how do we find a solution for all this stuff?
We just spent $12 billion on illegal immigration, and we just spent another $1 billion. Like the thing that we don't have money is the biggest joke in the world. We have money to give our friend, for Eric Adams to give his buddies no big contracts left and right. To say that we can't pay people that we harmed, we have no problem paying people out during those protests, 2020, June 4th, that were throwing bricks at cops. We had no problem giving those people money for going out and breaking the law. To say that we don't have the money, I honestly, it's a debate I've had, I think, with everybody. The money's there. It's there. It's just, do you want it there? And again, what I see in emphasis from all New York City politicians across the spectrum is illegal aliens are here. People who cross the border are here because we need that new vote. We want that new voter base. And citizens, public servants, teachers, EMS workers, sanitation workers, they're like all the way down there, like nowhere. They're nowhere.
Well, that's because we know where they're going to vote, where they're aligned with, and now we're just trying to buy off the immigration part. Are you going to go against a party that's giving you free housing, free food, free medical, free everything? No, it wouldn't make sense. In 10 years, when those immigrants become citizens or they have stability and then they want to, live the American dream their own way, then I think that number will increase to be more Republican conservative aspect. That's a long-term plan that I've been thinking about. But to stay focused on your answer, the third part of that is, for me, is if we do reinstate, we compensate, then you can't sue. That's my biggest thing right there, because that's what I'm thinking, or that's what I assume that the current legislative or the mayor doesn't want to happen, because then you have that aspect that you gotta focus on. Me specifically, the second that the rules changed, I think it was in 2021, where they lowered the mandates, and then in 2023, I think it was when now you can choose to take the shot at all. Before that day happened, the people should have been reinstated. They should have been compensated in some portion, whatever the budget could have been. But I assume the biggest the biggest stopping point is whether they're going to sue or not. That's where I assume is the biggest aspect. Until I'm in a position where I can speak to the party, the powers that be, the definite 100%. It's hard for somebody in my position to be in that aspect. But as a public advocate, what I would want to do is bring everybody at the table to try to find a solution so we can get. Because I remember when I was at the deputy mayor's employment youth employment seminar, and they were finalizing. I was the only person that doesn't ask non-immigrant questions. I'm like, can we focus on the citizens and the people that need the jobs back? And I believe at the time, I think they told me there was 14,000 city municipal jobs open. I'm like, trust me, there's a lot of people looking for jobs. Why aren't those filled? And then it dawned on me, sitting right there, the people that were laid off for the vaccine. And I'm the only person to ask the question, well, why don't you hire them back? And they never gave me an answer for that. Those type of questions, they don't give you answers back.
I think it's funny, and it's a complete paradox when it comes to this administration, is that, what you're saying, it sounds kind of funny. I'm not blaming it on you, but the mayor's concerned about potential lawsuits when, it makes sense. He has to protect corporation counsel because they have to spend on the lawsuits against this administration, because there's more lawsuits against this Eric Adams administration than we've ever seen before. His cronies and anyone in his circle has numerous lawsuits for sexual allegations. He's got lawsuits from former chiefs of the NYPD. He now has a major lawsuit from the former interim police commissioner, Tom Donlin. So, of course, they need to make room for this corrupt administration that's going on here. So we have a high-profile shooting. I'm sure you're aware of it. An off-duty federal agent is shot, is involved in a gun battle as there was an attempted robbery. There was two perpetrators on a moped that tried to rob this federal agent, and it just shows you the state of what's going on in New York City. So it's interesting. Cass Daughtry and John Shell were recently talking about how we need change. They were questioned about what's going on. They said, we need change in New York City. So what type of change is that? And they never lay out what that change is because they're embedded in their boss's Mayor Eric Adams. But what change is that? We talk about, yes, we support immigration, but we have illegal military age males. How do we screen these illegal and undocumented people to determine, well, this person wants to be here, they want to work here, this person is violent? How do we screen and how do we make that determination in a sanctuary city?
Well, that was the beauty, and once again, I'm not saying it's a beauty, but that's the beauty of what the Democratic Party did. They opened the border so that this situation would be our problem now, so that when Trump came into office, he would have to deal with these things. Then New York City would have to deal with these things. And let's say the socialists of America are putting themselves in the perfect position of where they want to be. So before that, just shortly before that, we talk about Cuomo and all the negative things that he did, and Adams and the things that he did. If you remove Mandani, if he wasn't in the picture, these are the people that still would have been the top contenders. So it's the individual faults for putting these people in these places. Like, how can we not fight them? Why aren't there more fundraisers, attention, media on somebody like Curtis Silva, who's a dedicated servant to the people, who has a fame that most people will never achieve, yet his own political party seemed to be already staying away from him, only because now there's polls that show there's a difference in numbers. So now we go back into the immigration policy. With the influx of immigrants, New York City being a sanctuary city, it's a hard situation that we're put in and say, how do we determine who can be here and who not? Our city charter, our state charter doesn't allow us to pick and choose who we want. They're citizens. They have a right to do everything that I told you. They can work, they can, or excuse me, not work, but get a job, they can get a house, get a bank account, they can drive or driver's license, etc. They're in a position that they can live a life. I would say our job right now is one, at the federal level and supporting Trump and his policies, where that comes in, is getting 100% getting the ones that are committing crimes out the door. And I know this doesn't seem like the nicest thing to say, but once again, I have a zero tolerance when it comes to illegal activity. So, you steal a stick of gum, or you unfortunately do something as severe as shooting an agent, a federal agent, get them, remove them, prison, whatever the hardship that we have to do, so we can get people back in a mindset that if you break the crime, if you're a bad person, then you don't belong in this. You some of your rights have to be taken away, and that might hurt some people's feelings. But we're at a situation where it's getting worse. I want to survive out here. I want to be able to live a good life. I want to live the American dream. So I hope that answers your question, Running Guns. How do we screen people? It's almost an impossible thing. What I do know 100% sure is if we don't change where we're going, these people will automatically be able to vote, take away jobs, housing opportunities. So the influx is only going to be worse in coming time. So that's why we need to support, individuals like myself and other candidates that are running.
Yeah, the other problem that no one hones in on, like the mayor washes his hands of everything. He blames everything on city council. He blames everything on the governor. He blames everything on laws. He blames everything on his own corporation counsel, who he instructs. One of the things he blames why he's unable to do anything is because of the sanctuary city laws. A law which, by the way, he said under an Adams administration would remain, that he supported sanctuary city. New York City will remain a sanctuary city under an Adams administration, right? Legal immigrants will be given the right to health care. The ICE will never cooperate with the NYPD. These are all things that he campaigned on. And now that he's changed his tune, people have to realize that was promises made, promises kept. But the bigger thing, I think, that always gets missed in all of this is that twice when city charter came up, he had the ability to put on the ballot sanctuary city law. And twice, including of just a few months ago, he refused to put it on there. So, I hold the mayor wholeheartedly accountable. And I hold every New York City politician, Republican, conservative, Democrat, liberal, independent. I don't care what you are, because I'm like, where was the push to put sanctuary city on the ballot if, in fact, it was an issue? Or it's not, And so, like, where was the push to have the mayor put this on the ballot and ultimately let the people decide? And so do you think that should have been part of the city charter commission? Should sanctuary city law have been put on the ballot?
I think almost all, and this only because it's a short list, but I believe all of these situations will be put on the votes of the people. But until we have a situation or a legislative body that actually wants that to happen, it's not going to happen. For example, would they even allow it to just say sanctuary city? No, they wouldn't say it like that. For example, Proposition 1 had, and this is not only just for the city, this is the state, federal, even Trump has to deal with it with the big, beautiful bill plan that he had.
Could you just, we know what Prop 1 is. Could you just let everybody know what it is? Like, Prop
yes,
1?
It was trying to change a lot, the charter on immigration laws reforms, education reforms, the vaccine. There was so many things. And for somebody like me running for office at the time, and also a leadership in a political party, there was so many things that were so ugly about this. Besides the fact that they was hitting from everything from housing all the way to immigration to policies and pregnancies and so many different things. Just because you are for one thing, you may not be for the other thing. Maybe you're hazy on one thing, but once again, that one law made it so that you can make all these amendments and changes to all these things and not be able to get a fully defined answer on everything. And let's say the Conservative Party only focused really on, I think it was not only the transgender or LGBT situation that were on it, but immigration on it. But there was also a lot of other things that they needed to focus on that was pro the Democratic Party and what they want to implement, which they're implementing right now. Which that's giving. I think it was one of the implications. And once again, getting a proposition or something law into place doesn't mean it gives you all the answers or the legality of it. It's always open for interpretation. So that's another problem that we have to face. Me personally, if you want to deal with a law, I want it to be justified and open, and I want people to understand the ramifications of what's going to happen beforehand. But we're not in a situation like that, and they don't want it to be like that because it doesn't benefit them at the moment. I mean that to the Democratic Party right now for New York in that aspect. So me personally, to answer the question again, is I would want a lot of these laws to be put into place so that people can choose, but not being able to be in a position so that they can happen is what's hurting us the most. So, like for example, us not having more seats in city councils or more seats in legislative position, that's one of the problems. The second problem was for them to put all these propositions or a proposition with all these issues on it so that they can get favoritism on one thing. When I was at the Board of Elections, I remember somebody walking in and saying, "Look, I don't really understand what this means. I would like more information." So they would hand you a pamphlet, and the pamphlet was so vague that they didn't understand it still. So they would ask the Board of Election person, "Could you tell me more about this?" And they were like, "Honestly, I don't know. I have no idea." Then you go to the legislative individuals, and yes, they might be fighting for the LGBT rights, but they may not be so swayed on or informed on the, let's say, the immigration part of that. So once again, our legislative officials weren't even 100% on all the topics on something that small. That specific year, we had, I think, maybe 6 or 9, I can't remember right now, 6 or 9 propositions that were put into place. Majority of them favoring the Democratic Party, they all favored the Democratic Party. And all of them won unanimously with large numbers. So once again, there was no competition, no balance of power, nothing in place. And majority of the people didn't even know what those situations were about.
I think this is a great, you've covered so many topics.
Yeah, he went out. Sorry, he keeps freezing up. Sorry, Gonzalo. He's out in Alaska in the boonies, so they've been hitting a lot of weather. Wait, hold on. I think we got him back.
Yeah, I'm sorry, brother. I've been traveling. That's been my passion. I've been all over the place.
Spit it out before you freeze again. Let's go. Spit it out.
Oh my God. Let's talk about homelessness because I think it weaves in mental illness. It weaves in the problem of veterans. It weaves in illegal military age males. What is your approach to homelessness? Because from what I'm hearing, the boots on the ground, the sources that I have, it's worse than ever. And this approach by this administration is just completely not working. They're trying to arrest their way out of it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, one of the things I would say with Adams when he started his administration, I mean, he did do a big push to try to get homelessness fixed. Obviously, the two factors that were against him, one is that he didn't have the ability to get them into housing immediately. So you stop somebody from being homeless, but where do you put them? That was one of the problems. The second problem is that he had was that as soon as he started doing, the civil liberties unions came after him, and he buckled down and he backed off. And that's it's a situation. If you want to be empowered, then that's the way. And if that's the leader that you pick. Me, I would have been hardcore on it, and I would have kept on pushing, but I would have done it a little differently. I would have had to try to do my best to try to put in place where there were, people in the nonprofit sector that could, not only assist these individuals with the mental health aspect of it, but also with a streamline to get the housing, but also to include employment and such for the ones that could do it. And then the second part, I would have fought the civil unions on it because once again, homelessness is one of the biggest problems that cause safety. But how did we get to that position where it's gone worse? One, you have the influx of immigrants that are taking a lot of the housing opportunities that are there for the people. You have the housing market being hard on the people. One of the biggest things for people to get revenue is to buy up properties. A lot of these people buy up the properties and they're looking for certain demographics that they want. And homeless people are not their main focus. So that limits the amount of housing that's availability. When you get to the affordable housing aspect of it, the cities are helping to build these housing complexes, but only 30% are used for such and such affordable, or for those that need an assistance. But if you try to track down those percentages, although they start off with 30% or more, who's actually keeping numbers in those housing complexes after they're built? Who's making sure that they're being utilized the correct way? So once again, there's so many factors on why the number has increased, why there's not a lot of recourse to try to fix it that can be immediate. But I believe if we got individuals out of place in office, more people that were focused on trying to fix the problem, then we would be at a better position.
Well, what is your approach? What is your solution? You're running for public advocate.
Yeah.
You succeed as the mayor. What is your approach? What's your initial approach to homelessness? It's a huge problem in New York City.
Well, one is that we would increase the housing, affordability housing, but that 30% would be a lot more in our favor than in the other side. Two, if we did increase the housability, that the percentage would have to be in our favor once again. That's where it comes in against the landlords and other the developers. They don't want to see that increase right there. But we'd have to. That's the whole point of our taxpayer being funded to try to resolve the problem. It doesn't put me in favor with the right side, but that's a solution that I believe it fits. Another thing, when we talk about the housing market in these programs, a big factor is the AMI, the percentage where for the cost of living for, let's say, for this affordable housing. So like they'll build a section for affordable housing in the Bronx, and they'll say, well, to get in, you need to make over 80,000 or 120,000. That AMI is being used in a percentage that's taken outside of the city and the Bronx and different areas. So it's taking places that are outside the what's it called? The people's income brackets. So it hurts individuals, like let's say myself, trying to get an apartment, or anybody trying to get an apartment because they don't make that bracket. Let's say the average Bronxite is in the 45, maybe 50,000 bracket range, but the AMI for them would be once again in the 80,000. So they wouldn't even be able to afford an affordable housing complex. Another thing, once again, the immigration process, we would have to get our numbers down in that position because once again, a large percentage is going, even though you're let's say amenities for citizens are not supposed to go for undocumented individuals. There are loopholes for that. Just say that you have a family member, you may not be able to get Section 8 housing if you're undocumented, but if you have family that's in there, then that gives you an ability to get in. That's one way. No, go ahead, Eric. Sorry.
I just want to say before John goes, I'm so glad that you brought that up, and obviously you're knowledgeable about this. But the problem I always had with the AMI is that the AMI includes Westchester and Rockland, which makes no sense. It's not even part of the New York City region. But those, particularly Westchester, such affluent areas, and that's included in the AMI. So if anybody is not sure, the AMI is the area median income. So that really skews the numbers, and that's another major problem with homelessness. So I'm impressed that you brought that up. That definitely.
But you know, and so in the common sense, it goes up and down. Like I said earlier, the increase in HUD dictates what it's one factor of dictates what the real estate market is going to be for a one-bedroom apartment. So as we increase our, let's say, our public housing, they set the standard on what that rent stability is going to be. Because if the average person wanted to rent an apartment for $1,000, it could happen. It's possible. But everybody wants to go with what that percentage is and then go higher because you want to make bank. It's a business now. So, you know, it's a lot of things hurting us in a different aspect. So once again, it's so many things going out of the situation. But if we can lower the difficulties in this, then I think it'll make a difference. In some aspect, we have to look in long terms and say, look, New York City is not affordable. Some people don't come here. Some people you're going to have to leave. It's not the thing that people want to hear that are in power, but it's something that needs to be said. You know, let's say for the immigration population, I would, you know, one of the things that I would do is try to say, look, it's not easy just because you think you're going to get everything easily for when you come here. No, it's not. It's going to be difficult. I have to talk to people that, you know, call me up and say, Gonzalo, I want to, you know, you're single, you want to get married? And I'm like, whoa, what are you talking about? That's some crazy stuff that, you know, I don't work that way. I don't, you know, want to do that type of stuff. But those are conversations that we need to have to change the narrative of what's going on in the ground level.
So Gonzalo, there's like this national attention now on Zohran Mamdani, and I'm sitting there talking strictly policy. You're a knowledgeable guy. You've been in the political scene for a long time. What do you say are the main differences between him and Eric Adams or an Andrew Cuomo? I personally believe I'm watching Zohran Mamdani's campaign, and it is Eric Adams' 2021 campaign. I said, you know, everyone's flipping out about the grocery stores, and I'm sitting here and I'm being called a communist and I'm being called an anti-Semite because I've been telling everybody you already have city-owned grocery stores in New York City. Like, I don't know what you're so then is the economy going to collapse because of that? Other people have ran on freezing the rent. And as well as when you look at Mamdani's public safety platform, it's literally Adams' 21 campaign. He was going to lower it's actually better than Adams' 21 campaign because Adams wanted to lower the headcount in the NYPD, which he did. Where Mamdani's just saying he wants to keep it at the same level. What do you think the main concern policy-wise is around the Zohran Mamdani? Like, why do you think it's getting so much national attention? Why is it okay for Eric Adams to have city-owned grocery stores, but a Zohran Mamdani saying that he wants to have city-owned grocery stores, which we already have, is the end of the world and is going to collapse New York City?
Well, the way I look at it that way is because, once again, I've seen the progress of the socialists of America and how they've operated. I didn't think it was going to be so problematic until the end of Trump's tenure. I thought after that point, then that's where it was going to kick in. I didn't think it was going to happen so quickly. But once again, you have somebody like Jumaane Williams, that's the public advocate, who's a socialist. Now you have Mamdani. Now he has AOC backing him in support. So you could see how they're unifying to get these stuff done. So we're not talking about something that could happen. We're talking about something that is pretty much will happen if we don't fight back. Their percentages and number, when I talked about the down ballot, Mamdani, he's already won in my picture. Our goal right now is to try to take away from him and stop him. And if we don't, then it's done. It's a done deal. When you talk about the grocery stores, yes, that was through pilot programs, through nonprofits and city programs and stuff like that. That's one aspect of it. One of the things that I hate is that they use the military. The socialists use the military as their view of getting these programs implemented. because I'm pretty sure somebody like AOC, when she sees free, like the medical, the veterans getting free medical, she doesn't understand the full concept that yes, there are veterans that get free medical, but it's because they're decorated combat war veterans. Whereas even in the veteran community, there's different levels of service that you get percentage wise. It's not automatically everybody's getting free medical. It's a certain percentage and demographics, and there's rules and regulations and policies in place. So the same mindset happened with the groceries. They're looking at the commissaries, which is where veterans or military individuals can get on base and get, let's say, discounted or not taxed items or groceries and stuff like that. So they utilize that concept for the city with their pilot program. And just so that people can understand, the free market is almost at a disarray with that specific issue, because a lot of groceries get tax breaks because their margins are razor thin. It's not an influx. There's not a huge percentage in markup unless you are increasing the percentage to be high. But once again, you will normally see that at high-end supermarkets and not on 161st and in the Bronx. That's not going to happen there. But
But Gonzalo, what I'm asking is, I totally agree with you. So the socialists have hijacked the Democratic Party, and I see that the old guard in the Democratic Party is trying to keep them from doing it. However, policy-wise, I see absolutely no difference in anything, like in nothing. I don't know. Like, I'm talking strictly policy-wise. Do you see a policy difference between a Zohran Mamdani or an Eric Adams or an Andrew Cuomo? Like, and could you name any of them? Because I can't.
Well, I would say there is a difference because each one of them have a little variety towards them. So, like, let's say for some Zohan, for Zohan, he would. I see him trying to implement these things happening, but they would be stopped at a certain level because in his position, I don't think he's had a law passed as an assembly person. Cuomo he's had the level of experience that you need at the governor level, combating and somebody like Trump, but also having the back end for developers and the powers that be. I mean, he's running a campaign and he lost with the bigger name and title and everything, but he lost with $24 million in his bank account, which I'm assuming he's going to get another $10 million before this race end. And he knows he's going to lose, but there's still $10 million in play. And then when you look at somebody with Adams, he's someone where you could say he's backed off here, left and right when it was convenient for the situation to uphold. And with him being in power, the corporations, the developers, the power that be want him in place because at least they know they have some control over him. I'm not trying to demean him or anything like that, but that's that's what you have in a situation because you've seen that he wants to stay in power. You've seen his leadership abilities and stuff like that. When it comes to policies, all these guys have very similar, but the way they're going to approach it and the way it's going to roll out is the way it's going to be different. So you're intentionally voting for the same thing, same person, same situation, and it's only going to get worse in my viewpoint. And the only way to stop that is if we have that ability to fight them or have at least a decent race. This one in particular has to show some variety because if it doesn't, let's say and this is where it's gonna be hard on me, but if I look upwards towards my leadership, I don't see them backing us up at all. And they've already left us to the wolves. They're already working for next year, the governorship, and they're 1-2 people that are that they care about.
First of all, I want to thank you, Gonzalo. You've been sitting here for 2 hours and 3 minutes right now during this interview, and you've answered so many questions, an array of knowledge. I'm impressed, especially when you talk about AMI and you talk about your perspective. And ultimately, what we're talking about right now is these policies, they all mirror each other. And you're right. their approach is different, because what we do see is that, at least in my opinion, and John has reiterated the same thing, Mamdani seems to be more honest about his socialist policies, where Eric Adams and Cuomo are trying to give it a blanket and a different facade. So with that being said, I thank you. I want to tell our chat here, spread the word, support Gonzalo Duran. He is a veteran. And you're right. The pecking order right now, unfortunately, by AOC and the socialists, is that illegal military age males are on the higher pecking order in the hierarchy in comparison to our veterans. You're absolutely right. And I see that. It's absolutely disgusting. So with that being said, is there anything in your campaign that we missed? Anything that you want to tell our friends and listeners? Anything you want to get out to the public about your campaign, or anything about you that makes you different from the incumbent, Jumaane Williams? Something special about you? Anything we missed? I think they would appreciate it.
Well, you guys said a lot of things, and I appreciate the back and forth, because that's something that I normally don't get that often. Like when I started this, I have to fight Republicans, I have to fight Democrats, because I am that middle ground. So I appreciate the love that I feel there. So thank you for that. For the people watching and the people that hopefully see this in the future, I'm just a regular guy. I have, I'm not the smartest person in the world. I don't have a large bank account. I'm just an average Joe. The person that you see walking down the street, on the train station, I'm that guy. And I've been able to do so much, whether it's in the nonprofit world, whether it's in politics. I'm a NASDAQ opener, Father of the Year recipient. I've been on national television on many different subject matters. I don't, I may not be the most, I'm not at the Curtis Silver level of notoriety. That's something that I don't think a lot of people will ever get. But for him to support me shows, I have to depend on individuals like him to give me that leg up, or to voice their opinion on me. That's one aspect of it. If somebody took the opportunity just to look up Gonzalo Duran, just Google me, or check out my website at gonzaloduran.nyc, you would see the amount of work and input that I've put in, not only in my military career, but in the community level to help out. That being said, some of the things I said here, there are going to be individuals that are not in favor of what I said. They might be on the fence of what I said, or they might be outright of some things that I said. There may be other things that they did like about it. What I'm going to say is, if you can put aside all the policies and just listen to what I'm trying to get done, if you can move aside the party level, the parties, and just look at the individual, somebody who's hardworking, somebody that wants to change, someone that's trying to better New York City, someone that's trying to listen not only to just one aspect of the problem, but all of it, then somebody like me wants the job, not because of the fame that it'll bring, or not because of the paycheck, or not because of the status level, but because I want change. You putting somebody like me in power, I will give 100% of my attention, my life to it, so that I can make the difference that we're all talking about. And even if I do get it, or if I don't get it, at the bare minimum, I want to at least open the door for someone else to come into place that you may want to come in. Because I can assure you, if we don't unify, if we don't fight back, then it's only going to get worse. And I don't want it to get worse before you guys look at me and say, dang, you know what, Gonzalo probably would have been a better option, In the many aspects, and I said this in the beginning of my interview, I'm on the fence of a lot of things. But there are a very short list of things that I'm not. And the one thing, and I will say 100%, is that I'm 100% against socialism. So if you can't agree with everything that I'm about, but at least that, then I'll take that.
No, yeah, listen, I again, I'm going to go back to what Scott Stringer said when he was on here with Ed Koch. And he said, if you agree with me on 80% of the stuff, vote for me. If you agree with me on 100% of the stuff, go get a psychiatrist, because there's something wrong with you. So I'm sitting here. I know, and I know Eric, and I'm sure everyone in the chat feels the same way. Is that you are, and not to diminish you in any way. You are. There is another option other than voting for Jumaane Williams, and it's Gonzalo Duran, and He has a lot of common sense. He's put the work in. He showed you all the links to where you could donate, to follow him on social media or below wherever you're watching or listening to the stream. So, definitely check Gonzalo out, and I appreciate the conversation. I really enjoyed it. I didn't even realize we were at 2 hours and 10 minutes. I really enjoy it. I hope that you'll come back. One thing I do want to capture on the air before you get out of here, because I thought you had an interesting take on it. Your position on the mayoral race. Who do you believe? I mean, you said it here, and I agree with you. You said right now it looks like Mondani's going to win this election, and I agree with you 100%. And then I asked you, who do you believe has the best shot of beating Zohran Mondani? And if you could just give us your thoughts on that.
Well, honestly, it's going to come down to the wire. I think Curtis Sewer has the best shot, but it has to be a factors of, Adams is probably going to get, indicted and removed in some aspect of it. And then Cuomo in the same, if Cuomo had the position that he was closer, then all the lawsuits are going to come. The women are going to come. The families are going to sue him. All these things are going to come up into place. And then that leaves our great hope is going to be Curtis Sewer. And once again, in the retrospective of the media where he's put into place, it's so hard because the mayor, even he doesn't have to be on television or the media to come after him, because everywhere he goes, it's an open invitation for him to talk about policies and his campaign. It's automatic. Cuomo is in a position where that they want him in place because they know he's had the level that they need for the future. And I'm talking about for the Democratic side to go against Trump as much as anybody, even though he may, quote unquote, favor Adams more or have him more and try to grip on him. The biggest obstacle in the future for everybody, I assume, is what they're going to do with Trump. For me, my mindset is I shouldn't be fighting Trump. I should be trying to work with Trump, or not fight with the Democratic Party, but try to work with the Democratic Party. So just to go back directly, I think Curtis has the best shot, only because not only is he fit for, and this is the guy that was running against him. If you look at my interviews in the beginning of the election cycle, I was running to give a bigger status to the Conservative Party so that we'd have a bigger voice and we have an opportunity. I knew to begin with that Curtis and I assume Curtis and Adams would be the ones head-weighting and fighting each other, and I'll just be there getting my little limelight and trying to get some more movement for my party and for our candidates. But we're in a different ballgame. This is crazy what's going on. And if we don't, I personally have been able to work with Curtis and been able to hear him speak on more personal level. And, to being his competitor, I'm his biggest supporter now. And I, not only because he's the party leader, but because I truly believe he is what a candidate that we need to run the city. At least have somebody who's not playing the playbook of a pretender. I don't think we would have the same problems because he's not beholden to any the party itself or any outside influences. So it would be a whole different ballgame if somebody like him won.
Rob Lukash, he's a former NYPD deputy chief. He's actually part of the Finance Unfiltered family. He says, "Love your honesty, Gonzalo. Best of luck. The city needs you." You got a lot of great comments here, by the way, from the chat. Our friends and listeners, they like you. You're a congenial person. There's no doubt about it. I think you're extremely humble for what you said about Curtis Sewer. Because honestly, it would be easy for you to say, you know what? I want Eric Adams or Cuomo to win, because if I win public advocate, I'm going to be the mayor. So it would be easy for you to say that. 2 hours and 30. What's that?
Well, actually, one of the scenarios when I got back after the primary for vacation, and this is something that Curtis put out there, not me particularly. Like, I had never told anybody once everything was going on that I was his competition. In my fundraiser, he goes, I'm glad Gonzalo's, running over there now and not, and I'm like, what? He shouldn't be saying that out loud. And then honestly, when that came up and the poll numbers came up, I was like, you know what? If they even thought for a moment to give Adams the Republican line, right, then their next goal should have been to make sure that he endorses me for public advocate. And I would have just bided my time and waited for his indictments, and then I would have been full circle, been a mayor. Anyway.
2 hours and almost 2 hours and 15 minutes. Gonzalo, you're a fellow Marine. You got stamina. You're doing great. I love the interview. I think you're extremely congenial. You're a nice guy, honestly, and you're honest, and you're actually pretty knowledgeable. The numbers that you gave are actually on target. So with that being said, we always at the end we speak to a candidate. We always have to have a little fun. We talk about politics, but let's just talk about you. Can you tell us what you do for fun? What are your hobbies? What are your movies you're into? Any bands you're into, or what do you do in your off time?
To be at this level and work productive is hard. Not only to have a personal and social life, so I've done my best to try to balance everything. So I love to go to movies. So I started a movie club a couple years ago, and I've tried to incorporate it into the nonprofit. I love books. As you can see, that's only one bookcase. I have tons of books in my stuff. So let's say helping get books and book clubs and movements and that aspect and different aspects. When I was doing politics and I was going knocking on doors and telling people, what are some of the problems that you're having, they were like, well, the youth, we believe crime is high because the youth, and it's not opinion, this is people telling me that the youth don't have anything to do, or they don't have mentors, and they don't have stuff to do, and that's why they think that they're falling to crime or crime is high. So I started a youth program. So while I'm working, I'm mentoring at-risk teens. I spread my time not only to help my political, but my nonprofit, but also my personal stuff as well. So, instead of having meetings at a cafe or in a boardroom, I love to cook. So I'll have individuals come over, I'll cook them a meal, and we'll talk politics or personal life and stuff like that. I have my own podcast. I switched over to Vet Talk, to political chit chat. Yes.
Gonzalo,
yes.
Go ahead, plug your podcast. Let's hear it.
So it's called. It went from Vet Talk to now political chit chat with Gonzalo Duran. We air on MMN Manhattan Neighborhood Network every Tuesday at 8 p.m. So you guys feel free to check that out. Even my family aspect. I have a nephew. I wasn't expecting to be changing diapers or doing any of those stuff at my age now. My kids, I do have two kids, but they're 19 and 17, so they're pretty much out the door. Now I'm getting back into the whole not like the dad routine. I sometimes I don't get to watch you guys' show because I have to take them to school in the morning. But when I do, so I love the long interviews because it helps out a lot. I'm just an average guy. I'm trying to find my foot in the place. Like, I never thought I would be the vice chairman of a political party. If I wanted to go higher, technically I could. Once again, and then being able to run for the second highest position in New York City politics, like it blows my mind, all these things that I've been able to do. So, if the only thing that I would add on from everything is I would like people to know this, that when you're running for office, understand that it's hard because you're getting pulled in a lot of places. We don't get paid to do these things. And working them is like it's like having an extra job. So understand that we might take a long time to get back to you, or answer phone calls, and we have our own family problems that we have to deal with, and personal and work issues and stuff like that. So to the people out there, just try to be nice to us. Say hi, talk to us. Know that we're not trying to be manipulators or anything like that. We're just average Joes too.
Hey, Gonzalo.
Well, I wouldn't say that about all you guys. Yeah, but you specifically, I'll agree with.
Yeah. Gonzalo, there's a couple of people in the chat that want to know if you listen to Coldplay.
Oh, look, on a separate subject, when it comes to music, I love all music. Coldplay does have a few of my best favorite songs. But I listen to country, rap, opera, 70s music. So I like to do a variety. So, I think that, stuff like that opens me up to different situations. So like I'll be on the bus and maybe somebody, my earplugs might come undone. And then somebody will hear me listen to Garth Brooks or something like that. And they'll be like, what are you doing You know?
All right, listen, we'd love to have you back on. Maybe join us for a roundtable, have a political discussion. But people, get out there, support Gonzalo Duran for public advocate. You know, there's change that's coming in New York City. Let's, a big fight ahead. So it's not going to happen without you people behind it. So if you could donate, send a little bit of money or a lot of money, whatever you could do. If you could get out there and knock on doors, call up Gonzalo, contact his campaign. Like I said, all of his links are down below, including the link to his YouTube channel. Appreciate everybody. We got the executive perspective coming up at 17:05 today. That's military hours, or 5:05 p.m. Eastern time. They're going to be discussing the Tom Donlin, former police commissioner of the NYPD, suing New York City mayor, along with his top appointed NYPD officials. Should be pretty interesting. Myself and Eric did a show on it. Sal recently did a show yesterday on it. Check that show out if you haven't. And now you're going to get it from a former chief and a former inspector, their perspective on it. So looking forward to that show today. Gonzalo, any last words before we get out of here, my friend?
Just if you guys do donate to me, know that it's only going towards pamphlets, flyers, and waters for my volunteers. I won't be going to the Bahamas or anything with the money.
Love it.
Semper Fi, United States Marine. You're so humble, which is why they have to vote for someone like you. Vice Chairman of the Bronx Conservative Party, soon to be the public advocate if the box checks up in the right place. So, you know what? I wish you nothing but luck. And as John said earlier, you're welcome anytime you want to come on a round table, have a political discussion. You want to just have a little fun and, chop it up with us. You're welcome here anytime.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
You know it.
All right. Find us Unfiltered, baby. 15:05. Check out the executive perspective.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community, but who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888-901 Blue. That's 888-901 Blue.